What if it's just bad? Hey guys, I'm Kate. Welcome back to my channel. I have my coffee. I'm hunkering in for a little chat. So I have been on YouTube, on AuthorTube, for a long time, and I stumbled across this video of mine that was like all of my writing and story insecurities, and I rewatched it. And I can tell that I was really going through it, okay? I have been very vocal, very open about the various struggles in my projects before as I'm writing them. I've also talked a lot about my successes as I've gone along. And so when I clicked on this video, at first I was like, I'm gonna have none of these insecurities anymore. That's like 5 years ago. I'm gonna be so past these. And then immediately the first two were like, that's still slightly an issue. But the other four I have overcome in a lot of ways or moved past. So I thought this would just be like a fun little topic of conversation. I do want to preface something. I watched Ara's video at Bentley House Minis, and she had a sort of section of this video where she was really like responding to the haters, and I adored it. I love Ara. Collabed together in the past, it was so much fun. And she was talking about this project that took her 10 years to complete, and there were some comments that were like, oh my god, I can't believe this took you 10 years, and like just haters being haters. And she was explaining about the creative process, and that obviously those 10 years are not, you know, full focused in a dungeon for 10 years working on something, but also that no art, no creativity, nothing that you make is wasted. The end outcome, or even if you like kind of diverge from it for however many years, it's not a wasted endeavor. You learn so much through the process of creation and this kind of discovery phase, and even if you're not completing something, it's okay. You know? So I just want to keep this in mind as we're discussing some things, because what I of course would love is if y'all would share your writing and story insecurities too, and maybe if those have morphed or changed over a 5-year time span. And you would think, after having done YouTube for so long, that I would not start recording if I don't have a full battery, but alas, that's great. This is kind of close to the same angle, right? So the first story insecurity that I talked about was actually the one that started it all for me. And it was as I was about to query the Meridian maps. I'd forgotten that I'd referred to it for so long as Project Blue and Project Blue 2, and named all of them after various blue shades. Nice little trip down memory lane for me. I was freaking out because, you know, as you're about to query a project, this is potentially, you know, the first time that you're giving it to someone with so much hope. Lots of trepidation, lots of like self-doubt, which is what I was going through, but a lot of hope too. It's a very unique time to be querying. And one of the things that I was worried about was that my fantasy voice wasn't good enough. And I think I'm just nervous that what I've written isn't going to hit the expectations of a fantasy reader. Which is funny because I actually still in some ways have this issue. Not like haha funny, but kind of funny. In part, this is why I'm trying to work on my white room syndrome, a big thing for this year. But the sort of lusciousness of the world and describing it and just like immersing people was something that I was concerned I wasn't totally doing, and I was about to have people judge this thing, potentially, if they even opened it after the query, you know, they even looked at the first couple chapters I sent. And while, like I said, this is still something that I'm working on, actively working on, I can't say that I've gotten a lot better, which is awesome. You know, obviously that's what you want. So even though these first two insecurities are still like little insecurities, I think there's a lot of confidence in looking back now and being like, I have grown since then, I've become better writer since then, better world building since then, and then looking ahead, and even if I'm not, you know, excellent now, even if it's something I want to improve, give it the same amount of time, I'm hopefully going to be that much better. The second one had to deal with my Princess Bride meets Scooby-Doo story that I wrote for a couple Camp Nanos, and I have attempted to write as a screenplay. Not a full attempt. In my head, it is still just so vivid. Like, I have it down. But getting that onto the page, not quite there. A lot of the concern stems from this being like a large cast of characters. There are 7 point of view characters in this story, and I just don't know that I can do justice to every single one of those characters. And that's what I would have to do to tell the story that I want to tell. I said before, I think I have like 4 or 5 maybe where I'm like, I got this, but 2 or 3 are just evading me, and it's, yeah. Yep, okay. Which is actually why I did eventually sort of pivot into thinking this might be great as a screenplay or like a sort of mini series. I think sometimes distinguishing between what's an insecurity and what's your like gut, the reader part of you telling the writer that it's like not there yet, is kind of difficult. And also how you define those things, right? I don't know that it's an insecurity that I can't write point of view 7 distinct characters. Like that is just a lot. And I don't know that it's something worth attempting in this way. And I think that's kind of the realization that I eventually came to over the years. Is that a way of dealing with the insecurity, is just slightly changing the goal? Yes. I think these stories that stick with us for years and years are really interesting because it's like, what about them is really speaking to us? Is it that one story, or is it like parts that you can mine for other stories, which I've absolutely done. In this instance, I really just have such a strong visualization of this particular story that I think for myself, even if it never got made into anything, even if it never sees the light of day, completing that in its entirety would be awesome. Like just for myself. Truly. The next insecurity I had was actually about Project Purple, which is really funny. That has been that's kind of what I was referring to when I was talking about Era's video, is that I was insecure all those years ago because I'd not yet had it beta read. It's kind of YA contemporary, except the key here is that she is writing a book about her experiences. And that's the part that I'm a little bit concerned about because I'm not sure if the concept is as good on paper as it is in my head. I'm concerned because I haven't yet gotten any beta reader feedback on it. I don't know how easy it is to follow. And since then, I have had it beta read several times and actually ended up really loving the project. I so enjoyed it, but I don't know, and I've kind of come to this conclusion, I don't know that it's something that ever needs to be published. I think I made it as close to publish ready as it was gonna be. I still really enjoy the story, but I just like, I don't know what I would be getting out of it. I know that sounds strange because I do have this sort of new mantra that I've not talked about, but it is a kind of like write, publish, repeat sort of thing. And just for that one, I don't know that I have that. It does not seem to fit in there. Maybe someday it will, but as of right now, it's like, I don't know if it's I've seen it done in ways that I found satisfying in other books completely, because I don't know that that's true, but maybe elements of that are true, you know? So I can't put an exact pin on it, but I did get it beta read. So the insecurity of those years is gone because my beta readers really did enjoy it. But I think that is a great lesson, and that sometimes we just need people to read our work. A lot of these insecurities are really just a matter of time. I think having Jessica as my CP has really helped, sharing a story with her at a level that I would never have shared a story with anyone else before, but just being like, I genuinely need so much help on this. I need you to read it now so that you can help me, has been very freeing, I think. And I've gotten a lot of feedback since then, and different stories, and so I think all of that helps. Sometimes you as the writer are just so close to a thing that you genuinely can't tell. And the answer to that is just to get other people to see it. But at the time, I hadn't done nearly as much of that yet. And so I think there's still this huge insecurity, a huge fear about sharing your work and being like, is someone going to judge it feels like the entirety of you is this story, and it's not. You are never one story. You are never your stories, period. You are made up of so many things, you know? But back then, that was not as clear to me. So at least I can say that one. Done. Over. Just like this next one, which was actually about the co-written project I had with my best friend. We were at this point that we stayed at for years where we just weren't working on the project because we were at a sort of impasse on what to do. There was a big character problem, I felt. The problem was that my co-writer did not feel the same way at all. And it's something that, again, you need beta reader feedback on because maybe I'm wrong, maybe no one else cares about this. Except that we'd gotten beta reader feedback before and that was the feedback. And so we changed some stuff.
Oh my gosh, it's just such a mess.
That's the thing about co-writing, is that you two have to come into one. You have to agree, or you have to pick and choose your battles. And I think that was something that we not yet mastered. We have since figured that out. All great. And we've since worked on other projects together. Time. It's all a matter of time. And I think when I was at the impasse, this was, you know, the first project we'd worked on together. We'd worked on it for years, and it just felt like it was never going to, we were never going to move past that. And that is a difficult spot to be in. I have a lot of empathy for past me. Me saying it's a matter of time is not to like wash away everything that baby Kate was dealing with. But in a lot of ways, the answer truly is just write a lot, read a lot, communicate with your co-writer a lot. My fifth insecurity was about Murder Mystery Tennessee.
I have no explanation for it. I think I wrote it in 3 weeks. I wrote a story in 3 weeks. It was like 60 something thousand words. Who knows what is, nope. The problem here is that I don't know that I am smart enough or that I can research my way through something enough, because in this story the main character turns into a private investigator, an accidental PI story. I love those. That part I'm not as concerned about. The part that I'm struggling with is that she's also very tech heavy. She's very good at it.
And despite, as I said, writing it in 3 weeks, precious little baby Kate was not concerned about that. She was concerned about the technical aspect and being able to research that character well enough. That's no longer an insecurity. I've gotten much better at research and knowing when in my projects to research things. Great, again, time, writing a lot, yes. But also the technical aspect. I am now with someone who's very technical, and it is, so I just get to ask him all of the questions and my problem is solved. Obviously that won't solve them for all of the stories that I do need to research, but again, that part's a non-issue. I will say Murder Mystery Tennessee taught me so many lessons that 4 years, 5 years ago, whatever it was, me didn't even know yet, obviously. I have since written several mysteries, which is exciting. I'm currently writing a cozy mystery, and I figured out how to outline mysteries. It's amazing. Turns out outlining was the secret to mysteries all along. Who would have known except everybody? And my sixth insecurity was about indie publishing, which, write, publish, repeat, read a lot, write a lot, do the things. I put it pretty well back then, which is just that it was my first time doing a lot of this.
I am very scared. Scare-sided, that's what I've been saying, both scared and excited. That is what I am. And I do have tons of great resources, it's just that thing of doing something for the first time. Scare-sided.
There are so many aspects once you take the writing and make it a business by selling the writing that you gotta have a whole different brain for it. And I'm not saying she was wrong to be nervous about it, but I think for that first one, you definitely make it a much bigger deal. Oh, and what I thought was funny is I was writing a college dorm series at the time. That's what I thought was gonna be the first thing, and it was not. So also, just funny. Lots of little things that you think are gonna happen in a specific timeline. Try and plan out for them, and they don't end up that way. Which is truly the story of this channel, I feel like. I'm trying to think about my insecurities now, but in a lot of ways, they're ones, you know, that I spoke about that I think are solved with time and practice and trying to pointedly get better at them, like my stupid white room syndrome. They're also recognizing that like some books that you put out or some stories that you put out may not be, I'm not gonna say your best, but like the best. Obviously the stories that I wrote back then, I can do better now. And I think that's always going to be the case, but as long as you're doing as well as you possibly can, as long as you get people's feedback before you're putting them out there, like, that's great. And also, stories are going to resonate differently with different people. So what you might think is your best story may not be the things that hit with other people. And that's kind of been the lesson learned along the way. I still am a little bit fearful, nervous, nerve-sided, as I said in the video, about when I do eventually publish a fantasy, or a full fantasy like Project Death or the Meridian Maps, because that is still something I want to do someday, and I'm very hopeful that it will be both of those projects, but they are very different than the kind of style that I usually write. It is a much different voice in a lot of ways. Some of the humor is very much the same, but the voice is different. The style is different. And I think it can be scary to be worried about, like, what if it's just bad? What if other people just don't like it and think it's bad? But then you're gonna find the people who do think it's good. You know, that's the balance with these things. Maybe I'm not as good at writing fantasy as I am romance, but also if I like it, I don't have to be the best at everything. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to be equally great at all the things I like to do. Do I wish I fully understood and knew that, you know, all those years ago? Sure, but lessons learned with time. Please do comment down below. Let me know if you have any writing insecurities. Let me know if you have any story-based insecurities. When I think of story-based insecurities now, it's one of those things where I have the insecurity potentially for like this specific draft. It's like something that I know is not great in this draft. But I have a newfound confidence from 5 years ago that I will be able to fix it. I still use just as a crutch word and back. Those are my two that I really wish I, at this point in time, had fixed by now instead of in the final round of edits where I control find all of them. But you know what? Maybe that's a 10 years down the line kind of thing. Coffee's done. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon with a new video. Bye.